Hello there, everyone. How are you going? It's lovely to see you all today. Happy Sunday. I will just wait for a little bit and wait for everyone to jump on board, make sure that I've got everything sorted out, and then we're going to get started. We have so much to talk about. It's incredible, all of the questions that you guys have popped up. I love it. It really makes me really proud that this workshop has, hey Rhonda, how you going? Really proud that this workshop has sparked some curiosity about ketosis and autoimmune condition, and that you guys are keen and eager to learn and eager to get things started. So I actually love when there's lots of questions, because it gives me some insight into how much you're thinking about all of the information that's coming through. So thank you so much. Now, we popped up a post a couple of days ago with all of the questions that you wanted. So I have pages and pages and pages of them. So I'm going to get through those, and then I'll also be responding to people's questions that you're putting up in the comments there. So I will do my best to get to everyone. Having a look at how many questions there are so far, I think I will probably need to do a two-part series to this live Q&A, and I'll probably get Gabby, our incredible nutritionist and naturopath, to jump in and answer some, and also Elisa. So I have dobbed them in. They don't know that yet, but if I run out of time, I'll get those guys to answer some stuff. Hey, Melissa, how you going there? And someone else is there, Ruth, I reckon. Hi there, how you going? Alrighty, so let's get started. So the topics that I have, hey Elisa, how are you? Sorry, I just dobbed you in to help me out, answer some questions if I run out of time, Elisa, so then everyone can get to know you as well in the group. But I will fill you in on what I have missed out. So tonight, or this arvo, I'm going to go through some questions about ketosis and some questions about just the nitty gritty of food and fasting. I'm going to go through the cultures and ferment questions, that those cool connections between gut health and conditions and things that we see in people's health. I'm going to look at kids. We're going to talk about this concept of cleansers and die-off. Also going to go through supplements. So there's been some questions about supplements there as well. Also, it's really cool to see lots of you really wondering about our offer that we have at the moment for everyone to join program. And so I'm also going to outline our one-on-one programs and what's the difference between that and our self-paced online programs, and just sort of give you a little rundown, because the offer ends on Tuesday for our one-on-one programs. So I want to make sure you guys have got all the information that you need to make the decisions that you need to make by Tuesday. So I will also delve into that. There's been lots of questions asking that as well. Alrighty, so let's get started. There's a really, really awesome question here. Are you able to talk about ketone readings and why they fluctuate? So from 0.3 in the morning upon rising to 1.4 after lunch, are fluctuations normal and okay? So I talked in part 2 about the fact that it is so cool that you can actually measure whether your body is making ketones or not. And so this is the best thing about the ketogenic diet, is that it's not a, give it a guess, wonder, am I making ketones? There's no anomalies. There's no kind of gray area. You know when you're in ketosis by doing a little blood prick test and using a ketone monitor machine. You can also use a breath machine as well if you're like me and completely freaked out by needles. And so when you measure ketones, as I said in part 2, you want to be really above 0.5, and that's where your body is making ketones and you can extrapolate energy from those ketones. Now, for that question, yes, absolutely, it will fluctuate. And you make more ketones when you're exercising. So today I just went out for an awesome mountain bike ride, and I've got a lot more ketones in my system because I've just gone and exercised. You can make more ketones when you eat, have more exogenous ketones like MCT oil, which we talked about. But you can also be out of ketosis or drop your ketone levels by the amount of carbohydrates you eat. So that will pull you out of ketosis. The amount of protein you eat, that will pull you down out of ketosis as well. And also, how stressed you are is another big thing, and your sleep is another big thing that may possibly pull you out of ketosis. So the fluctuations are usual, they're normal. If they're less in the morning upon rising, it's probably that your body is still getting used to being in ketosis and it's getting what we call fat adapted. And that, takes time, but you will get there. If after lunch you're 1.4, you might have had exogenous ketones, you might have done some exercise, you might have had some coconut oil or some good quality fats that will push those ketones. So they're all the things that are going to happen with our ketone levels, and it is expected that it fluctuates. So that's absolutely fine. Okay, so another question, can we cook cassava, tapioca, cooked and cooled rice, soaked, cooked, then cooled, reheated at a low temp rice? Now, some of you may or may not know about all these different cool things that you can do with rice. Occasionally, so can you eat those foods occasionally without messing everything up? So this is a really great question because the cooked and cooled potatoes, the cooked and cooled rice, cooked and cooled sweet potatoes, all those things are what we call resistant starches. And resistant starches are wonderful for the gut. They're prebiotic foods for our microbes in the gut. But also those resistant starches don't spike our sugar levels, our insulin levels. They actually, in fact, help to blunt that big insulin spike that most people get from consuming carbohydrates. So it's very different to have a bowl of rice, for example, that is hot, to a bowl of rice that has been cooked in the absorption method, cooled, and then you've left it in the fridge for around 24 hours. That builds up those resistant starch molecules, and it helps with that insulin response. Now, the question is, can we have these things on a ketogenic diet? So for some people who are metabolically flexible, so they're metabolically fit and their insulin levels can really be flexible going in and out of ketosis, they haven't got big sugar cravings, big sugar spikes, they don't have big gut dysbiosis, they can absolutely have cooked and cooled rice and cassava and tapioca and those sorts of things. It may pop them out of ketosis for that period of time, but it's very easy and quick to get back into ketosis as well. So that's why it's so important to work with someone to understand these complexities and anomalies. But yes, so when I go for a big mountain bike ride or, I train hard or I'm doing anything that for a long period of time, I'll often refuel my glycogen stores with some cooked and cooled rice or tapioca and so forth. It might put me out of ketosis that evening, but then I will pop into ketosis the next morning. So it really is about being metabolically fit and making sure that your body can be flexible about that. Okay. Alrighty. I have a carb, grain, sugar-loving hubby who would like to try keto, but I'm worried he will not go with it long term. I don't struggle with it, but I do change everything or start with one thing at a time. So this is a really hard question, the question of getting family members on board. So the first thing is to really get yourself on board, get yourself thriving, put the oxygen mask on yourself and make sure that you're really fighting fit and going well and everything is really happening for you, you're balanced. Now, if that's happening and it's going really well and you want other family members to jump on board, it depends what kind of, what's going on for them. So if you've got carb, sugar, loving kind of addictive family members too, and they're addicted to the carbs and sugar, then absolutely, with their permission and commitment, I would rip it off like a Band-Aid and just pull out the grains and get started. The minute you have a little bit of carbs or a little bit of sugar in your diet, it will spike insulin again, make them crave things, and they won't be able to stick with it. So I am a big believer of working up slowly, but then I call it the kickoff day. And so with all of our clients, when they come on program, we spend a period of time talking about what needs to happen, talking about the ketogenic diet, all of the things you need to change. And we just, we sort of, really troubleshoot, okay, what's going to happen here? What do I need to bulk cook? We really just nut everything out, and we aim and get ready for the kickoff day. And on that day, when we know we're prepared and we're ready, things are cooked. We've sourced everything from the different butchers or, wherever we need to get our food from. And then that's the day. You can't go flipping back and forth in between two different sort of worlds and diets, because it's just not successful for people who are, sugar and carb addicted. So, I would highly recommend that you kind of find your kickoff day and then slowly but surely ease things down. So cut out your, some grains, but, you can keep your fruits in and keep your sweet potatoes and those sorts of things, the higher carb and sugar natural foods, and then slowly but surely get to the point where getting more comfortable with it, and then it's kickoff day. Alrighty, so I hope that one helps. Okay, here's a great question about ketosis. What is a good length of time for, using glucose or carbohydrates as your fuel source, and then also using ketones as your fuel source? So what's a good time to be spending in those states, as we call them, once your gut issues are resolved? So this is going to be different for everyone, so it's a hard one for me to answer. But saying that if you have a sedentary job, you're not doing much during the week, then I would stay mostly in ketosis during the week. And then on the weekend, when you're doing more movement and more exercise, then you have a really beautiful, nourishing meal with more carbs, and you can pop out of ketosis. So this is called cyclical ketosis. So you pop out of ketosis. You might hear people calling it carbing up. So you refuel all the glycogen stores in your muscles, and you're like, for me today, I've been on this big ride, so I'll have some carbohydrates, and so all that glycogen goes to my quads and goes to my calves and everything to really nourish it, and then you cycle back into ketosis. If you have a really high energy job, then you're going to be wanting to cycle out of ketosis maybe 2-3 times a week, so far more regularly. So it depends on your activity level. Some people on program really can't cycle out of ketosis for quite some time. Their body metabolically is stuck, so they can't handle the carbs and the sugar at all. It causes a massive insulin spike. It really, hampers functions and different brain pathways in the body. So they need to stay in ketosis for a long period of time while the healing happens. And then after that, we can slowly start to get that cycle going. So once again, it's something that you need to work with someone to get that right. But also it's a trial and error thing. You've got to work it out to see, when do I need that beautiful glycogen back? How long can I be in ketosis feeling amazing before it starts to impact my sleep or my stress levels? And, they're things that you need support with. You can't kind of just nut that out on your own. Okay. Someone here said, I found out through a microbiome test I have Streptococcus species and Citrobacter in my gut. I don't have any digestive issues at present and no food issues. I also have low blood pressure. Would the keto diet be okay for me? So as you guys know, Streptococcus is my arch nemesis. So I have used the ketogenic diet to completely support my body to manage and, to really crowd out and manage the Streptococcus that was in my gut and in my nasal passages and in my mouth. So I couldn't recommend more highly the ketogenic diet for strep and citrobacter. So the ketogenic diet, there was a question there about low blood pressure. So when you go into ketosis, and this is another reason why it needs to be guided and you need support with it, is it really throws your electrolyte balance out of whack for a period of time as your body is getting used to being in ketosis. When it drops the glycogen stores, so literally when you get into ketosis, you just wee a lot, for the first little bit while you're dropping your glycogen stores. And you need to replenish your electrolytes much more than you would normally. And so people's blood pressure can either go down or it can skyrocket. You can get, racing heart, pulsing heart. All of these things can happen if you don't manage your electrolyte balances correctly when you go into ketosis. Now, I know this all sounds really technical and hard, and it's just not, but I'm covering all these questions off. But if you have low blood pressure, like I used to have extremely low blood pressure, and being in ketosis has actually supported my body's ability to, pump everything around. And it's supported cardiovascular health, but it was very much tied up with making sure that my electrolytes were balanced. So when we talk about electrolytes, it's magnesium, potassium, sodium, and making sure your kidneys are well supported. So I have lots of people say to me, I went into ketosis, but it didn't work for me. I felt really flat. I was so tired all the time. I had back pain. I just constantly cramped. And that's just not understanding how important the potassium and sodium and magnesium is, where to get it from, and how to do that. So it's very important to make sure that we know that. Okay, just wondering if you can still drink protein drinks for plant-based pea proteins and still stay in ketosis. Can the protein drinks be fermented? So it really depends what protein drinks you're utilizing. So protein, as I said before, if you have too much of it, your liver will turn protein into glucose, which will then increase your glucose levels in the body, and it will kick you out of ketosis. So you can't have too much of, the protein drinks if you want to stay in ketosis. Of course you can, and I highly recommend ones that are collagen or gelatin based or bone broth as your protein drinks over things like pea protein or plant-based proteins, because they have a lot more fillers in them, a lot more sugars. They generally are a lot more processed. So once again, that's why it's cool to get the testing monitor, because then you can see if you're in or out of ketosis depending on your protein powders and how regularly you use them. But they can kick you out of ketosis. Okay. All right. How long does it take to get into ketosis if we have not done it before? It's a great question. So getting into ketosis and becoming fat adapted, so utilizing fat as your fuel source, for most people to be effectively utilizing that fuel, the fat fuel, it normally takes a good couple of weeks. So don't be despondent if you're not seeing ketones, but it takes time for your body to get used to that. But also you can speed up the process by using those exogenous ketones like the MCT oil that I was talking about. You can also use other exogenous ketones like BHB, like butyrhydroxinate, and some other types of exogenous ketones, but they're harder to source and they're more processed. So I really do prefer the MCT oils and the coconut oils to support you to get into ketosis. But yeah, I would be expecting a couple of weeks for your body to get fat adapted and for you to really get that energy from your, from your body's fat stores rather than from glucose. Okay. So how many grams of carbs will knock you out of ketosis? Does how often do you eat affect this? So once again, it's very hard for me to answer that because my husband, for example, can eat a lot more carbohydrates than me and stay in ketosis, whereas I have to keep it quite low to stay in ketosis. So everyone is very, very different. So that's why I'm not a fan of giving people specific micro and macronutrients and giving them specific key markers, because it's just not as simple as that. So you can Google the ketogenic diet and it will say, 70% needs to be from fat sources and 15% protein and 15% from carbohydrates. But everyone is so different and everyone's so metabolically different, whether they're producing stress, whether their gut is under stress. And so everyone's going to be different about how many carbs they can have. So once again, test, don't guess, monitor, and then work it out like in a structured way for when you're in ketosis, rather than this sort of arbitrary carbohydrate that we're looking for, because it just doesn't work like that. Okay. Another great question about the cooked and cooled rice. So does the cooked and cooled rice recipe in the Guttalicious book reduce the carbs enough for ketogenic diet? So once again, for a lot of people, no, it won't. So the cooked and cooled rice in the Guttalicious book is more for your days where you're going to, have a carb up day or a refuel day where you're putting more glycogen stores back into the body and supporting you to go in that cyclical ketosis. Like I said, if I've done a heap of training or a big exercise run, or if I've done a massive bushwalk or something, I could have some cooked and cooled rice and stay in ketosis. But that, is quite a lot of exercise to stay there. So, that's once again, it's different for everyone and all of those kinds of things. All right. And there's another question here about how and where inflammation occurs and how ketosis helps reduce inflammation. So that question there I answered in part 1 and part 2 of the lectures that I did last week. So go and look at those. And the question also said references. So there's also some great references on our website. We've put some blog posts up there with some really good references about ketosis and inflammation. But if you do a quick Google search, you will find lots of incredible peer-reviewed papers looking at ketosis and inflammation. So there's lots and lots of information out there for you to quickly Google. Alrighty, so let's go into food and fasting. But before we get there, I'm going to have a quick drink and I'm going to just check everyone's questions to see if I need to answer anything. Okay, so there's a great question about how do I know if I'm in ketosis? So as you said there, the ketone machine will absolutely tell you if you're in ketosis. Another thing is your breath is a really important sort of marker as well. So when you first start producing ketones and getting into ketosis, you can smell it on your breath and that settles down, but it's another sort of indicator. You make those ketones and you're expelling those ketones out through your breath. Our breath is another detoxification way or exit point. And so breath is a really important one for also having a look at that. Okay, so how do you get yourself into ketosis? So once again, it's keeping the carbohydrates really low. It's sticking to a very clean diet of, vegetables, proteins, and good quality fats, making sure that you use those exogenous ketones like MCT oil, and then monitoring. Now, obviously, in our Culture Wellness program, we teach you how to get into ketosis, how to measure ketosis, how to support your electrolytes. We teach you all of that stuff, what to eat and so forth. Okay, and how do you achieve a metabolic flexibility? So I've answered that before. You can flip out of ketosis, in and out of ketosis, and you still have lots of energy. You're not hungry, you're not craving carbs, you're not a sugar addict, you're not tired, lethargic, all of those sorts of things. So you can be in ketosis, full of beans and energy, and you can be out of ketosis, full of beans and energy. That's a pretty good indication you're metabolically fit. Thank you. Someone said I'm glowing today. That would have something to do with, number one, an awesome mountain bike ride I just went on before. And I put a little bit of makeup on today for you guys. So I got all dressed up. I actually washed my hair and put some makeup on. So thank you. Asking for a friend, for someone who constantly gets silent reflex, what ferments would you recommend? I would recommend just starting with the coconut yogurt and just keeping it really simple, very, very small amounts, and then working up to Krauts, the Culture Wellness Diversity Dough, and so forth. But just stick with the yogurt for now. Alrighty, okay. Fermenting buckwheat and rice. So if you haven't got the Nourish with Diversity ebook yet, I highly, highly recommend you get it. It's the best ebook for using our diversity dough cultures. And in that ebook, there is lots of recipes utilizing buckwheat and fermenting buckwheat in those recipes. So you can find that there. I don't often ferment rice, so it's not something that I do or use in my recipes. Great question. Do my kids follow the ketogenic diet? Yes, they do. So Noah went for a ride with me today as well, and he would have been in ketosis and quite fat adapted on the ride. He, I was hoping it would be the magic cure for his going through puberty and testosterone and there's like big extremes, but I think the mountain biking is just as important for that. Okay. Alrighty, so if I'm time poor, sometimes can't make my yogurt every time, what is a good brand to buy? So there's not really a good brand to buy, and that's not because I want you all to buy my yogurt, but I just have not seen a yogurt that doesn't have guar gums, that doesn't have sugars, natural flavors. The strains I don't really like so much. And so, I really haven't seen a yogurt that I'm super happy with that I would recommend, unfortunately. So you can make our yogurt in, massive 2 to 4 litre batches and then keep it in the fridge for sort of 3 months at a time. So, most people aren't that time poor that because it takes, I think I timed myself once, it takes about 3 minutes to make the yogurt by putting everything in and then pouring in a jar and putting it on. And I make my kiffers in 8 litre vats, so I only have to make them, probably once a month. And I make my yogurt sometimes in big 4 to 6 litre jars, so I don't have to make it very often. So no excuse. No one is that time poor that they can't make yogurt. Okay. Well, let me get on to some of these now, and then I'll go back to your questions because I'm really trying to make sure that I do both the questions along the way. So, Elisa, thank you so much that you're there. Elisa can pop in and also answer some questions as well. So if you're popping questions up there. Okay, so this is an awesome question about what can be helped with fussy older eaters. So I assume this is sort of teenagers going into adults. Hard to convince family to try something healthy that isn't packed with bad, tasty stuff. Yes, so I really feel for that person that asked that question because it's true. It's really hard to bring the troops over. I've got an awesome story for you. So my dear neighbour who I met since I've moved up here to the Sunshine Coast, she just wants to nourish her family, but it had all become a bit overwhelming, or there'd been roadblocks with the kids. They're highly active, super sporty. They do a lot of sort of traveling and going to different places. And so, she was really worried about that. And then in the end, Ash, and many of you would know Ash if you've done the cooking classes with me, Ash became my absolute right-hand person in my cooking classes. So Ash helped, like when I, get ready for my cooking classes, Ash makes sure everything's, cut off and put on little beautiful dishes. And she just gets me ready and all sorted out so I can do the best I can for my cooking classes. And in the process of doing these cooking classes each week, and Ash saw, because she didn't eat a culture wellness sort of lifestyle, but she was very interested. And in the process of her new job working, with me as my food prep and stylist, she saw all these incredible yummy foods that you can make that are so tasty and so yummy. And, they're not sort of, different foods or diet foods, or the kids just sort of turned up to the dinner table and just started eating them. And she'd sneak in a bit of MCT oil, or she'd make these beautiful like chocolate almond cups for them to have after school, and all this really cool stuff we made, sort of homemade Ferrero Rochers, and or like a sweet potato gratin. So many yummy foods. And so her family just started eating culture wellness food because she saw how much all the different recipes and all the different foods that you can make. And it's not too different. You can make them super yummy. It shouldn't be, diet food. And Ash is just such a great example of, she just didn't know where to start, and she was a bit overwhelmed, and she thought her kids would hate it. And then, she got into cooking the way that I, eat, and how our family eats, and, all the other culture wellness families, and her kids just took off. Funny story though, her husband, so when we moved house, because I was literally her neighbor, and then when we moved house, we had quite a period of time where I didn't really have a kitchen for a while last year. So we did all the cooking classes at her house, and her husband would work on a Wednesday, and I did the cooking classes on Wednesday at her house. So when, the cameras had turned off, he'd come out and be fossicking around like, what's there to eat? What can I have? And just totally, just every single week was just in heaven with all the different foods. And turns out that Ash would never make him Brussels sprouts. And I make this incredible bacon Brussels sprout dish, and he just was in heaven with it. So it's a really good example that they lived such a chips after school and quick energy food, muesli bars, like all that kind of just your stock standard kind of family life. And they really easily converted over to eating many of the culture wellness foods, and all of them. Okay, so alcohol, love wine, obviously not through healing stage, but if no autoimmune problems, can we consume some within reason? So there is some great research around the benefits of wine. It has resveratrol, it has antioxidants. Obviously, sharing a glass of wine with a friend brings just extreme amounts of joy, and feeling joy, connecting with community, that is up there. That is so important when it comes to your healing. We need to make some great choices about the wines that we consume. And thankfully now you can literally go to most of your beer, wine and spirits, or these, big bottle-os, and you can actually find wine that is preservative free, and that doesn't have any, sprays or chemicals, or it doesn't have any extras added to it. So even probably 3-4 years ago, you certainly couldn't find that. It was hard to find. They were out there, but it wasn't in your local wine store, or in your Woolworths wine place or anything. So if you are going to have alcohol, I highly recommend that if you're going to choose a wine, choose red wine over white. White wine is extremely sweet. And choose a wine that doesn't have any sulfites, preservatives, and is pretty clean and is organic. My drink of choice is gin and soda, so it doesn't have any sugar at all in it, and obviously a white spirit, so it doesn't have any yeast or wheat or anything like that. So people ask me all the time if I drink, and every now and again I do. And once again, I will choose a clean source, and I will buy a really expensive bottle of wine that's organic and preservative free, and I'll really just love it and have a glass with a friend, and then I won't drink. When I do drink, the next day I will work on my liver pathways to make sure that it can get out those toxins. And drinking really impacts hormones. So I really make sure that I support my hormones and look after my hormones after I've been drinking, because it can really cause fluctuations and hot sweats and all sorts of things for your hormones, especially if you're perimenopausal or menopausal. You've really got to watch out for that. Okay. Now, next question. Is there a food list of fruit and vegetables, etc., to have and not to have? So when you join program, we have all of our meal prep lists. We have all of our food lists about the fruits and vegetables that, you can have on program, the ones that need to be fermented, the ones that are fine just to have without fermenting. So we go through all of that detail on program. There are, if you just Google ketosis, whole foods ketosis, you may be able to find lists out there. But, and then obviously in the Gutalicious book, there's all sorts of recipes in there that are going to be friendly for the ketogenic diet. And so you can see a lot of the vegetables in there and the fruits that we ferment and so forth. So there's some information in the book. Okay. Now, are olives from the deli considered fermented? No. So they've just got a vinegar in there, so they're not fermented, unfortunately. Okay. So I begin my day with warm water and ACV. Awesome. Once I begin fasting, does the ACV break the fast? I heard you can even have black coffee and it won't break the fast. Is this true? So if you are fasting, I would leave the ACV out because there might be some forms of sugar in there. Same with lemon. So a lot of people have lemon water in the morning. And so you want to leave that out whilst you're fasting. And then you can have black coffee if you are in a true fasted state. And there's also some literature around you can add and keep in fats because it doesn't alter your metabolic state. So when I do my fasting in the mornings, I always include fats. So I'll have a bulletproof coffee with MCT oil and also butter. And so that supports me cognitively to be able to keep with my fast. Doesn't impact my sort of liver function or impact any of my metabolic state. And it just means that I can function and think when I'm working or if I'm going out and doing some exercise, those sorts of things. So if you're starting off fasting, I would highly recommend either a Noah's Hottie. So there's some, we've got some recipes about that, which is, I recommend a bulletproof coffee or a dandelion coffee. Sorry, not Noah's Hottie because it's got some chocolate in there, some cacao. So that will help with your fasting. Okay, so I'll just go from here now and have a look at some of your questions. And thank you, Elisa, for covering some of those off there. So let's go back up here. Alrighty. I live in a cold area south of Sydney and wonder how I can encourage my coconut yogurt and kefir. It's been 6 days and it's still sweet and the yogurt is very runny. Okay, you can buy fermenting mats and you can also buy sort of these fermenting rings that go around your glass jars as well. So you can do that. Bunnings has fermenting mats like a brewery mat. It's more for making beer, obviously, but it will do the same thing. Your yogurt will be runny until you put it in the fridge and it cools down and solidifies in the fridge. And for everyone listening, the yogurt will separate with the liquid on the bottom and then the fat content on the top. And that's usual and normal, and that's what we're expecting. And then you stir that through. If it doesn't separate, it still works, but it's quite common for it to separate. So nothing's happened if you see that. Oh, Melissa, you're a carbon sugar addict. Oh, that's all right. We got this. We got it covered for you. Okay. Hi, Shirley. Lovely to see you there. Yeah, the other really cool thing is you guys would have seen the wool cool or the wool packaging that we send our cultures out with. What a story. And I wish I could go into it now because I just love that packaging. It's obviously extremely environmentally friendly. And we originally, way back when we first started shipping our cultures, I would get little polystyrene boxes from the fruit and veg shop and, use them secondhand and post out our cultures, but I still couldn't bring myself to do it. And then we found wool cool. And the wool cool is an insulator, so you can wrap that around your jars in the wintertime as well, and it will really warm up your ferment. So that's pretty cool. And then obviously you can put your wool cool in the compost, and I've heard that people make pet beds out of it and all sorts of things. I've heard all sorts of really cool. Someone made some shoes out of it. So the list goes on. Okay, is it common to feel unwell or strange in the first few weeks when beginning? So Melissa, that is an awesome question. And absolutely, your body is completely changing systems. So it is going to be feeling different, feeling strange. That's why it's so important for us to teach you on program detox tools and making sure that you are in ketosis and making sure that you can mop up any toxicity that being in that ketogenic state is causing. Because, of course, being in ketosis, as I said before, does a lot of cellular repair, a lot of cellular cleanup. It gets rid of toxicity, and you need to mop that up. Otherwise, you get this thing that is often touted is keto flu. And keto flu is just that someone isn't eating enough fats, so they feel exhausted and fatigued. They're not getting enough nutrients and enough fats in, and they're also not mopping up those toxins. So I don't want people, people that we work with, we don't want them experiencing keto flu. We don't want them experiencing any major issues. That means we haven't got the detox tools or the diet right. But you will feel really different. And the biggest difference that you'll feel is that you're not a slave to food. So it is absolutely mind-boggling that you can literally go 4 hours at a time and not think about food. You forget about food, and you don't, I'm not hungry. I don't need a snack. I can push my breakfast out a little bit more. Don't really feel like I need to eat right now. So they're all the strange things too. Like your whole life kind of shifts around, and as your body starts to get into the swing of things. So there's lots of different feelings. Okay, great question, Kelly. How long will all the information be available on the Facebook group? So it'll be available until the 1st of July. And then we have our Cultured Wellness community page, which is another private group where you're all more than welcome to join. And that's where we still monitor that page, not as actively as we have been monitoring this one, but you can pop in your fermenting questions, you can pop in questions, and then either we will answer, or obviously there's a community in there of, well over 12,000 people in there that are really supportive, and everyone is really helpful. So we have that Culture Wellness community page, which is free. And then we also, when people join program, we have our closed private community page, closed private pages for our crew who are on program, and they answer lots of questions, and that's where, we can really support you on a daily basis. Okay. Okay, what does it mean when the cultures are making me bloated? All right. Well, first of all, that means I'm so glad you're having the cultures, because it means there's a bit of dysbiosis there, and it needs to be be addressed. So if you're getting bloating, just go back to having small amounts at a time and slowly work up to it. So with the yogurt, you might start just with a teaspoon of yogurt a day and then work up to it. And so basically having enough that it doesn't cause any bloating, and then your body will get used to it. You will start to change what's happening in your gut, and you'll start to recalibrate, and you'll be able to eat more and more. So, but if the cultures make you bloated, it's a really cool sign something needs to happen. Okay. So, hey, Ange Pine, how you going there? So the aim is to utilize the benefits of ketosis forever, and being able to pop in and out of ketosis, depending on whether you want to do a little bit of, fasting or cleaning up those damaged cells, whether you, just want to sort of upgrade your body and look after your body, and then you want to be able to utilize having some carbs as well. So I don't recommend that you stay in ketosis forever, but utilizing the effects. So for the rest of my life, I will absolutely be utilizing ketosis for, days at a time, because it's such a powerful state for us to be in. All right, so let me get back to some of these questions, and then I'll get on to your questions again. Okay. Can you elaborate on the benefits of using Culture Wellness coconut yogurt when cooking versus coconut cream or similar? So this is a great question. So in a lot of our recipes, in our, my recipe books, we, we'll stir through the coconut yogurt in a curry, for example, or, we might make little gummies with the yogurt, or also using, instead of coconut cream as such, using coconut yogurt as the base of the recipe. And the reason why we do that is because the coconut yogurt, by the nature of the fermenting process, it gets rid of the sugar. Coconut cream and coconut milk still have quite a lot of sugar in there. And so the fermenting process gets rid of the sugar. And then also during that fermenting process, the sugar is eaten up by the bacteria, and then the bacteria multiply. And the bacteria is probiotics for your body and for your gut. And so we want as much bacteria in our lives as possible. So that's why we recommend using the coconut yogurt over coconut cream, because of the probiotics, and also you ferment the sugar out. Okay, can the beneficial bacteria live at a heated temperature? Not very high temperatures. So for example, like I was talking about before, if I add my yogurt to a curry, I'll serve up the curry, wait for it to be sort of, lukewarm or a bit warmer, and then stir the yogurt through. If you're heating to higher temperatures, it will compromise the bacteria, and it won't be as robust and won't have the higher CFU count of the probiotics. So everyone asks me all the time about baking for the diversity dough. The diversity dough is more focused on all of the resistant starches, making sure that you've got those prebiotic fibers for creating diversity in your gut, hence why it's called diversity dough. So yes, it's fermented because it gets rid of all of the extra sugars and carbohydrates in those fibers, but you do lose some of the efficacy of the probiotics when you cook it. And so we're really focusing on those prebiotics. And so it's always great to have in your day, a little bit of the diversity dough, a bit of yogurt, sauerkraut, kiffers, and so forth. So you're getting that variety in fibers, probiotics, prebiotics, the full works. So I hope that helps. Okay. If I ferment sweet potato or carrots, for example, can they be roasted first? Yes, you absolutely can. So you can roast your root vegetables, and then you can ferment them afterwards, and that will reduce down the sugar content and the carbohydrate content, and that will enable you to consume them and stay in ketosis. And as I said in part 2 of the lectures, that was kind of like that game changer moment for me when I was learning so much about being in ketosis, and I was troubleshooting and I was experimenting. The way that I kept so much diversity in my diet and so much, richness of color and fiber and all those sorts of things was because you could ferment all this cool stuff and keep the sugar and carbs low. So yes, you can do that. You don't have to roast the carrots first, but you can. If you were doing a roast sweet potato or carrots, I would highly recommend even like pureeing it afterwards, after it's been roasted, and then stir through some yogurt to make it really creamy, and then you can ferment that to get rid of the sugar. So that would be really yummy. Okay. So I have post-lymphoma cancer trauma affected. So which ferment would be best to create the most bifido longum to increase bowel movements? Are there any other important factors that would make a difference? Okay, so absolutely, I would start with the yogurt first. So bifidobacterium strains utilize fiber more than sugars to ferment. And so the fiber in the coconut cream, the bifido strains eat that up and love it. And so they multiply more rapidly than the sugar-loving strains like the lactobacillus strains. So if you want to increase your bifidobacterium strains and specifically that longum, yes, then the yogurt is the first place to start. Interestingly, you talked about bowel movements there. We also, or in my cultures, there's also a Saccharomyces boulardii, and that has some great research behind it for constipation and supporting bowel movements. So that's going to be another great support for you in the yogurt. And obviously the yogurt having those beneficial fats is really going to support that gallbladder to, spark up and to get rid of that bile and start to get that movement happening and support that peristaltic action. So yeah, I would start with the yogurt for that. Okay, this is another great question. I'm curious to know how much of the bacteria in your fermented foods makes it to the gut as opposed to taking a probiotic capsule with the coating. I understood allowed the dosage to make it to the gut unscathed. What is the optimal daily amounts of coconut yogurt, kefir, and diversity dough? Yes, so hopefully we have enough stomach acid that, it actually makes it quite hard for probiotic capsules to actually reach the gut because, they're going to be impacted or destroyed by that stomach acid. But most people don't even have enough stomach acid to cause any effect or any change there. And the probiotics can go quite all the way through. There are certain probiotics that also use different types of capsules that survive that stomach acid, a bit better, and they can reach down into the small intestine and the large intestine. But that's the beauty about fermented foods, is that it has a wonderful rate of reaching the gut. And the question there was the optimal daily amount. So when you can get up to the optimal amount, obviously start low and slow, but getting up to the optimal amount of a cup of yogurt a day, about, 2 to 3 cups of kefir a day. And then with the diversity dough, it just depends on what you're making. But, a slice or 2 of diversity dough, or if you're making a beautiful cheese and bacon scroll, one of those, or if you're making like a fermented raspberry little muffin, one of those would be fine. So you don't need too much, but you want to get that consistency in and have it regularly. Alrighty, so look at me go. I'm breezing through these questions. So some of them, I'm ticking them as I go along. I'm going to go back to these questions now to make sure that I'm getting on to everybody. Yes, Sarah, the videos will be saved and we'll put them up in the guide so you can keep watching. If not, made jelly from kefir and pear, 1 cup. Oh, okay. So Anne's got a question here. If you made jelly from kefir and pear, 1 cup with 2 tablespoons of gelatin, how much can I eat in a day, please? Oh, that's an interesting question. My kids go for their jellies, and so do I. So, with 1 cup and 2 tablespoons of gelatin, you could probably eat all of that in one day if you really wanted to. There's nothing wrong with that. And how much can I eat in a day? So either a full amount of that or half would be fine. Okay. It's a really good question about being in ketosis and your menstrual cycle. Are there times where you shouldn't be in ketosis? So there's some great research coming out about this, and there's some great research about your menstrual cycle and what type of exercise most benefits you during those different phases in your menstrual cycle. So it's not applicable for women to just smash themselves and exercise and do HIIT training and just go extra hard their whole cycle. There's different, we can run into having injuries because there's more flexibility in our ligaments at different phases. And also when we have a big drop in progesterone and estrogen, it's quite stressful on our bodies. And then if we're doing a big load of stressful exercise, it can really cause trouble. So once again, ketosis is actually very beneficial and supportive of menstrual cycle issues. So I've had lots and lots of clients that I've worked with that have, had cycle issues their whole life and a lot of pain, a lot of hormone issues, have needed to have extreme amounts of intervention just to kind of make it through their cycle with migraines and all sorts. And the ketogenic diet always helps to really balance that out because it supports the liver so much, and the liver has a huge part to play in our cycle and how our cycle is supported. So there will be times in your cycle that you don't want to put your body under too much stress. So you're not going to do any intermittent fasting when and you're not going to go majorly deep into ketosis, so high levels of ketones. You might want to do some of your carb up days just before you are about to get your period, because there's not as much progesterone and estrogen floating around, so your body needs a little bit of extra love and care. And so yes, there's some changes there, but it's more about just not putting your body under too much stress. But I could do another whole live on that one. It's a really interesting topic. I have to keep it kind of short. So do you need more starter if you are doing a bigger batch? Yes, you will. So if you're doing, say, like a 4-litre yogurt, then you'll need to do 2 cups of your yogurt starter or 2 cups from your previous batch. You can grab that to make a bigger batch. So you'll definitely need to do that. So Ruth, I'm not a fan of soy milk at all. So I wouldn't use soy milk to make the Culture Wellness yogurts. I don't think it's actually got enough sugar in it either, because you need that natural sugar to be able to kick off the ferment. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of soya milk. I think it's quite disruptive to your health. So if you can choose another option, go for that rather than soy. And no, I'm not a fan of microwaves either at all. So it's preferable to melt your gelatin in a saucepan and stir it through. Alrighty. Let's get to it. So how much does health of mother play on health of baby and child, even as they are grown? As it is that the first bacteria, and I could just be pulling at straws, but I do notice a difference in all my kids and my health at different stages at birth. So that, you hit the nail on the head there. As a mother, our health, our nutrient levels, and how robust and strong we are when we are pregnant, and our level of diversity in our gut and our gut bacteria plays an enormous role in the bacteria that is seeded within our beautiful newborn's little gut and how that progresses forward. So you're absolutely not pulling at straws, and I love how curious you are about that, because yes, if you had different health concerns or stuff going on with each pregnancy and each child as they were born, you can see how it correlates to your health and then to the child's health. So you've got it absolutely right there. Okay. So that's a really good question. Can you prevent anaphylactic attacks by improving gut health? So I have certainly seen that. Anecdotally, I've seen that people who are, anaphylactic to certain foods, once they've improved their gut health and they have really supported that leaky gut and that intestinal permeability and really sealed that up, calmed down that nervous system response so that it's not sort of, reacting to these big antigens in the body, I have certainly seen that big anaphylactic reactions reduce down considerably. It's not a magic pill for a lot of people, but I have seen it happen. And the literature is still, very much coming out on that. But anecdotally for our clients, I've seen it happen a lot. Are migraines related to gut issues? Yes, they absolutely are. Whether it's a menstrual migraine or whether it's just you randomly get migraines, it's absolutely connected to your gut, to your liver, and to your lifestyle. And so once again, we see all of our beautiful clients who've got migraines. It just, once they get their body balanced out, they get those toxins out and they rebalance gut, brain, all of the rest of it, migraines aren't an issue. So yes, you can absolutely get rid of it, and it is very much related to the gut. Okay, so once again, another person talking about their autoimmune condition, specifically arthritis, and what is the best option for an autoimmune condition. So, as I was saying before, really to get yourself into that, anti-inflammatory response, and to make sure that your body isn't constantly in a flare, inflamed, and that your immune system was working for you, then I highly recommend for autoimmune conditions to utilize ketosis and to make sure that you understand what's going on in your gut. So testing what's happening in your gut and seeing who's causing this autoimmune condition. And then, really making sure that you change those lifestyle choices and really work on those lifestyle choices to support your body, and then definitely get into ketosis and then, support your gut health. That's the best place to start. Is gut health linked to adrenal fatigue? Without a doubt, absolutely. There are other factors at play with regards to adrenal fatigue. It's not just the silver bullet. But yes, so if your gut is not working effectively, then your adrenals are going to be all over the place. So, and your hormones as well. So really, really want to make sure that your gut is settled, and then you can work on your adrenal health. So we have a lot of clients that we work with, and we get their gut sorted out, and they've got that, beautiful balanced gut. They've got rocking stools. We get to, get that intestinal permeability sorted out, but there will still be hormone tweaks to happen, or there still might be tweaks with regards to cognitive support, energy levels, and so forth. So, that's what I was talking about the other night in the live. It's really important to continue on the process of piecing the puzzles together, making sure that once the gut's sorted out, that all the other layers, all the other pieces to that onion, that, peeling back those pieces of the onion and those layers are sorted out too. So the kind of ground zero base work is the gut. And then we look at, the hormones, and we look at environmental toxins and heavy metals and so forth, and cognitive function. So it's very fun. Lots of stuff that we can get into. So do you need a gut analysis, or can you begin the healing journey without it? So you absolutely can wake up tomorrow and start looking after your gut and healing your gut. So, focusing on those fermented foods, focusing on taking out the inflammatory foods, lifestyle choices. So you can begin healing your gut at any time. Whacking on a bone broth and sipping on some bone broth is the beginning. It's the start of you healing your gut. Making that choice to nurture yourself and look after yourself is the first step. So yes, you can. And then as you progress, if you need to tweak things, if you do have quite serious conditions, then that's when we're going to look at the testing. But you can get started straight away with some really cool, easy changes to look after your gut health. Okay, how helpful would this program be to all the children who are showing up over the last few years with type 1 diabetes? I understand they cannot be cured once they cannot be cured, but can it support their insulin? So I actually answered this question on the Facebook page when the person put it up, because if only, an understanding about a ketogenic diet and an understanding about what our children are eating at the moment, how it's leading to such significant chronic diseases, chronic learning disorders, issues. I'll get very fired up about this, so I'm going to have to stop getting on. But when it comes to kids, I get so fired up. And yes, the ketogenic diet is shown to be supportive for people with diabetes. There's literature there. We need to support these families and give them information about this. And also that we know that there is a link between missing strains. For example, a strain called the Akkermansia strain in our gut. We know that there's people that have diabetes, when you assess their stool, they are missing really important strains like Akkermansia and Prudonetsky, and these cool strains that do a lot in our bodies to support insulin levels and support metabolic flexibility and metabolic pathways in our body. So yes, the ketogenic diet will be so supportive of that. Okay, going to have another drink while I have a look at your questions here. Okay. Claudia, that's a great question, and I hope I answered that for you. But ketosis way of eating help with menopause, premenopause and menopause. Yes, absolutely. And then certainly when we see our clients, we work on being in ketosis first and nourishing the body. We work on getting zinc levels up, B6 levels up, having really the appropriate amount of fats that you need for your body to make hormones. So if you guys aren't aware, we make hormones out of cholesterol. You need to eat fat to have a healthy amount of cholesterol to make hormones. And you need zinc and B6 and vitamin D and really, your iron levels and a high amount of nutrients to make hormones to support you during that time. So, we can certainly help you with that, Claudia, but also when you talk about hormone replacement therapy, there's some incredible herbs that can help you with that as well. And so, we do a lot of prescribed, tailored mixes of medicinal herbs like chaste tree, for example, and rosemary and all sorts of different herbs that are known to support hormone health rather than having to have hormone replacement therapy, which ends up just putting pressure and stress on your liver. Okay, so Sarah, so that's a great question about cheese. So most people have leaky gut, and cheese, especially the cow's cheese, has the big protein molecules in it and can really flare up an autoimmune condition. So we don't recommend cheese when you're bringing the body back into balance and stopping a flare. And also nuts and seeds can be really inflammatory as well. So we also sometimes don't recommend things like cashew cheese. But, Sarah, you and I are going to dive on into that. But yeah, most of the time, no dairy and no cashew cheese. But the cashew cheese we come back to. Okay. Have you had clients cut off PPIs and stomach hernias and esophagus, Barrett's esophagus? P.S. I would love to know your skin regime, Kirsty, as yours is going. Thank you. Well, I'll answer that question. So we have had lots of clients come off PPIs. We have lots of clients come off their blood pressure tablets, you name it. When the body, as I said the other day, our bodies are incredible. If you provide the right conditions for it, it will heal. So we've got to provide the right conditions for your body to heal. And so we have seen lots of those disorders change. We've seen lots of things improve. But also, if you've got those conditions, it's very important to have a look at your getting a complete microbial mapping to see what's going on in your small intestine. If you've got Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, if you've got H. pylori in there, you know, it's going to cause a lot of issues within the gut. It's going to cause a lot of burning. And so that is the root cause, and that's the stuff that we need to find out. So my skin regime, interesting question. I sweat a lot, so I make sure I do either saunas or go out in nature and sweat a lot. And I'm in ketosis a lot, and I eat really well, and I eat fermented foods, and that's about it. I'm really lazy with what I put on my skin. I do use my dear friend Kim from 28. I use all of her skincare range. And I've recently started using vitamin C, which is pretty cool. But I have my sunspots, and it's just that the lights are on at the moment, so it probably looks better than it is. But my skin changed. I used to have like grey skin and, yeah, quite pale. So it's been incredible changing my diet and watching my skin and face change. Angela, no. So fasting is not suitable for everyone. So there's a lot of people that I wouldn't recommend fasting for. So if you're stressed, if you've got hormonal issues, if you are undernourished, you know, if you've got busy lives, if you're not metabolically flexible and fit, yet, I wouldn't recommend going into a fasted state. So yeah, it's very important to make sure that you're in the right condition to fast. I know it's the hipster cool thing to do at the moment. There's a lot of information about it, but you can cause yourself a lot of damage if you fast all the time and you're not keeping up with your markers and you're not doing it appropriately. Okay, so I have developed calcium oxalate kidney stones in the past. Is the Culture Wellness Program suitable for someone like myself? Absolutely. So yes, once again, it's conditions that we have treated before. And, you know, we actually at Culture Wellness have, because when you have parasites, it puts a lot of pressure on your kidneys. And a lot of people have significant kidney issues from long-term parasitic, you know, infections and infestations. And so when people take our parasite herbs, when they're doing a parasite cleanse, interestingly, you know, we know that the kidneys suffer. The kidneys need extra support. And so we have a supportive medicinal herbal tonic with things like celery in there, beautiful herbs that will support the kidneys. And we also sometimes then use different nutrients and also different types of juices, especially celery, again, is very important for the kidneys. And no, I'm not a fan of the 10 million litres of celery juice a day, especially on an empty stomach. But a celery juice and, you know, celery and cucumber, there's certain beautiful nutrients that you can juice and support your kidneys with. So, but yes, we can really support you with kidney function. Okay. Let's have a look. My 4-year-old daughter had some kinesiology and it came up with her having an overgrowth in her gut. Wasn't specific. Do you remember still doing a stool test or going straight into program? She has ferments daily. Well, that's awesome. She has ferments daily. So congratulations, Mum. I can't see your name there. So congratulations on doing that. So if she has an overgrowth in her gut, I do recommend program because the program is going to sort out the overgrowth. But yes, a stool test is always going to be beneficial to find out who you're dealing with because it's going to help us with working out what herbs we need to choose and, you know, what our treatment plan is going to be. So, yes, I recommend program and, yes, I recommend a stool test for that. Alrighty, so Joseph said if you have taken a course of antibiotics, do you need to adjust your intake of cultured foods? So after you have taken the course of antibiotics, I would highly recommend that you get as much fermented foods into your diet as possible, and very specifically making sure that you're not eating a lot of carbohydrates or sugars. Going into ketosis is going to be really beneficial for you. But yes, you would need to increase your intake of fermented foods if you've had antibiotics. All right. So let's go into, there's questions here about die-off and cleansers. How's everyone going? You're sticking with me? Give me a thumbs up if you're sticking with me, and if it's all good information for you. So I'm really keen. So just give me a thumbs up if it's all going well, because there's lots and lots and lots of questions for me, and I just want to make sure that I'm keeping up with everything for you. Okay, so just give me a thumbs up to let me know that you're still sticking with me and you're still there. Okay, so the next question is, I've read that enzymes, oregano, garlic can help break down biofilm. My doc put me on some enzymes and herbal treatment when treating me for SIBO, but never mentioned biofilm. So I'm wondering, since my SIBO die-off symptoms were mild, maybe they didn't break down the biofilm. And cool. I'm glad that everyone seeing some thumbs up there. That's great. Yes, so very high chance that there wasn't enough work done on breaking down the biofilm, and that's possibly why your SIBO die-off symptoms weren't as strong. It is just imperative to do biofilm work. I can't sort of stress it enough. You won't make any steps forward unless you're doing biofilm work. Okay, diatomaceous earth for parasites, yes or no? My naturopath said it is not good for gut lining. If consumed alongside plenty of bone broth gelatin, can it work? So yes, diatomaceous earth is really quite abrasive to the gut, and we certainly don't recommend it. We recommend more activated charcoal and bentonite clay. They're going to be just as effective, but far more gentle and less abrasive on the gut. So we have the activated charcoal and the bentonite clay in the Cultured Wellness shop. So you can grab that and it will be much more supportive. Yes, add in the bone broth and gelatin anyway. It's going to be amazing, but I'd take out the diatomaceous earth for now. Do you support using NAC to mop up when starving off pathogens? Yes, I do. I'm a big fan of NAC, and Gabby will prescribe it regularly to support with liver function and toxicity. So big fan of NAC. Alrighty, we're getting somewhere. Okay, thank you for all the thumbs up and that the information is working. That's good, and that you're learning so much. Okay, Claire, what actually is biofilm work? Very good question. Please go back and listen to part 3. I talked about biofilm in part 3, my last live, so go back and listen to there. I go into quite a bit of detail. Okay, if SIBO is present, is your yogurt okay, or does it contain high levels of bifido and lactobacillus? I am told are bad for feed SIBO. Earth or soil-based probiotics better? So really cool question. So if someone has got SIBO, when we work with them, we go very low and slow on the ferments. So we have a SIBO protocol and a SIBO program. So when a client presents to us that we're working with and they have SIBO, we have very specific herbs that we have created for Culture Wellness that we prescribe to break down all of the different small intestinal overgrowths. And then we go very low and slow with the fermented foods. And sometimes we will use soil-based probiotics if necessary. Often I'll send people out in the bush and just get their hands dirty. But yes, it's not as simple as avoid fermented foods. I have got SIBO. It's just so much more complex than that. And so, when I was busting some myths about the ketogenic diet in the lecture number 2, it's a bit like that with the SIBO work. There's a lot of information out there and a lot of people talking about SIBO. It's a bit of a buzzword, and I just get very concerned that the wrong information is getting out to people. So once again, you just got to work with someone that knows what they're doing. Okay. How much is too much when eating fermented foods or drinking kefir, for example? My kids are loving small bits. I've started giving them and they want multiple cups a day. All right. So for kids, yes, 2 cups of kefir is fine. Obviously making ice blocks for them is fine. A cup of yogurt is fine, depending on age. Obviously, if they're very, very small, a half a cup is going to be better. And then my daughter went through a phase of just wanting so much kefir. And so then I would just do, say, a quarter of a cup of kefir and the rest with water. And then, she felt like she was getting heaps of this drink a day, but in the end, it was only about a cup or 2 that she would get in a day. So, where you can kind of adjust it, you can add water and slowly work your way up to that. Okay, NAC is, or NAC is a supplement that's used to support your liver function. And I don't have enough time to go into it now. It's quite complex, but it's just a supportive supplement that we use to help people. Some practitioners use it as a biofilm disruptor. Once again, going into that more technical space. But also for supporting methylation and liver support. So NAC is a tablet form of a supplement. Okay. Alrighty. So that's a really good question there. If it comes up that you have SIBO, parasites, biofilm, and infections, what order do you approach fixing these? Or is it an all-in-one approach? So it's absolutely an all-in-one approach. And I cannot tell you how many people come to work with us and they have SIBO and they have parasites and they have all sorts of issues. It all kind of happens all at once. It's usual to have everything all at once. You're not unique or different. It's more usual to see people with a complexity rather than just one thing, because when the gut breaks down, then suddenly it's this open slather for everything, not just one infection. So we do treat it all at once, because what you need to do for parasites is also what you'll need to do for your biofilm work, and then you make some tweaks for some SIBO work. So it is an all-in approach of completely rebalancing the gut microbiome, but we do it as step by step. We go through certain cleanses and you utilize medicinal herbs. We do a lot of gut sealing and rebuilding, and certainly on our one-on-one, our tailored 6-month program, you systematically go through each of those cleanses and break down all of those issues. But it is still an all-in-one approach. Okay, so just going through the questions here. So there's still lots of questions about the histamine issues here. So once again, if you've got histamine issues, we really need to look at what's going on in your gut and who's living in your gut, because histamine issues are more complex and it can really be navigated and helped. And so you don't want to just be cutting whole food groups out and just saying, well, I'm histamine intolerant and I don't eat those foods. You can absolutely support that and get back to eating all your foods. Okay, so great question here about what's the difference between sauerkraut fermented from cultured wellness cultures versus whey I strain myself. So I think I went into detail about this in part 1, I think. So the culture wellness cultures are very specific cultured strains that you know what you're fermenting. So you know the strains that you're adding in to ferment. When you utilize whey once, if you've drained that from your kefir grains, so your milk kefir grains, you don't know what what cultures you're utilizing to ferment that sauerkraut. So, it's often an heritage bloom, or, with those kefir grains, you just don't know. And so, for example, for years and years and years, I couldn't have whey, or I couldn't have kefir grains, because they still have streptococcus strains in them, and they still have histamine forming strains, they have delactate strains, all the things that my body just could not handle. And I would get so sick from them. I'd get rashes, I would get diarrhea, I would get brain fog. Whereas when you make the sauerkraut from the culture wellness cultures, you know exactly what you're doing, what you're creating, and then there's less chance of having that big kind of overt reaction to it. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Oh, I would love to know your thoughts on endometriosis and how it relates to gut health. Currently, there's no cure besides invasive surgery in Western medicine. Do you think ketosis can help reverse this? Wow, so massive question that I can't answer it all here, but like we're doing with this ketosis and autoimmune condition, I have also run workshops on the information about your gut health and hormones. So that connection between your hormone health and how your hormones are balanced and what's going on in your gut. So we will probably be doing another one of those workshops later on in the year, probably around September. So make sure that you, sign up to all of the emails and stay in touch and join the community group and so forth, and just stay connected so you know when that's coming up, because there is so much to learn with regards to gut health and hormone health. We have something in our gut called the estrobolome, and the estrobolome is a subsection in our gut, and it is very much responsible for supporting the elimination, the absorption of, and us excreting our hormones. And so we want to make sure that that estrobolome in our gut is working really effectively. And so we can get rid of any excess estrogen, mainly it's that excess estrogen. And so we know that there is a massive link between a lack of diversity in the gut and conditions such as endometriosis. And we have seen huge changes in someone's pain and someone's, ability to function, and also seeing changes in their endometriosis by going into ketosis, adding in the right fibers and the right resistant starches, the right foods to help eliminate those hormones. I've seen huge changes. It's really remarkable. So, let me know if you want me to put on that hormone workshop, because I was only just, because it's, end of the planning year, I was only just sitting down with our Nicole, our GM at Culture Wellness, and talking about, when are we doing our workshops? What kind of themes do we want to do? Do we want to do hormones and so forth? So if you're keen, let me know. Okay. So now we're getting on to supplements. We have both the activated charcoal and bentonite clay, and tend to use the activated charcoal on a weekly basis, but don't use the bentonite clay much. Is it a good idea to use them both during the week, or do they target different things? So yes, I would use them interchangeably and see which one suits you better. Activated charcoal is amazing because it really absorbs, like triple its own weight in toxins. The activated charcoal is really good for if you've got SIRS or mold illness, if you've got hormone issues, if you've got heavy metal issues that are water-based heavy metal issues. And then the bentonite clay is great for that parasitic stuff, for motility, for really like just sweeping the toxins through and eliminating them, getting rid of biofilm. So they are different in what they do. And so I would use them interchangeably to find out which one is best for you. And I still use them both at sort of during the week and use them both, sometimes on the same day. So, yeah. Okay. All right, so I'm going to get to these questions in a moment. And the questions about testing, that's a really good question. And I think I'm going to actually dedicate a whole live to testing, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, because I really want to unpack with you microba, what you see in a microba test, how it can be helpful for you, why we recommend it. And yeah, I just want to go through it in a much more depth than this, rapid fire sort of Q&A. So leave that with me and I'll make sure that you do that. Oh, Claire, you're keen for any workshop. Okay, brilliant. I'll bring it on. My passion, I'm very interested in cognitive health and cognitive ability and Alzheimer's and brain fog and all those sorts of things, and the gut as well. So, that's a good one, but I'm always interested in hormones, kids' health, you name it. Alrighty, so we're getting through the questions. Before we keep go any further, before, some of you might need to go off and cook your family dinner or get ready for school tomorrow or so forth. So I thought I would quickly answer questions that people are asking about the difference between the Culture Wellness one-on-one program and our online self-paced program. So here it is. Listen up. It's very, very important to get all this clear. So the one-on-one programs are when we work with our complex patients, when they need extra support and care, and really tailored, like or what sometimes feels like, every couple of days, tailoring, tweaking, supporting, lots of testing around complex health conditions. And it's that one-on-one care of really sticking with you with that structured support to get you to your health goals. So the one-on-one programs are done like this. We do them on Zoom, or we use a program called Clinico. So you have your call, we do it online, and you individually meet with either myself or Elisa or one of our health coaches, and meet with Gabby, our naturopath, to get your testing sorted and organised, to have your reports analysed, your blood tests analysed. So real tailored supportive care. And you have us in your back corner, and we're with you every step of the way. That's different to our online self-paced programs. So our online self-paced programs, you go through the modules online at your own pace, and it's self-directed. So you direct your learning, and you'll go in and you'll learn, and then you'll apply it with what you're learning to what you need to do on program. You still have consults with Gabby, with our naturopath, on the programs. We want to make sure that, you're appropriate for the self-paced learning. So some people, their needs are too complex and they need to come and sit with us in that one-on-one space. You still have your consults. We still make sure that we are here if you need extra health coach calls to work out what to eat or how to plan your day or meal plans and stuff like that. So you can still, have extra care and extra support, but you don't get the weekly consults and the tailored care. It's a self-paced learning. So we have our 6-month program, which is the self-paced learning. And, you're guiding yourself, you're learning along the way, so much information. There's an online portal there. And you still can access having testing. You can still access having all of your reports read, and the consults, obviously, that are very important. There's just not as much one-on-one support. And so on Tuesday, our incredible offer with this amazing gift voucher will end. So we will end our offer on Tuesday for the one-on-one programs. Now, I think I only have 1 or 2 spots left. So if you want to work with me on my one-on-one program, please make sure you reach out and sort it out. and you organize and book that in. So purchase that with me, because the last time I checked, it was 1 or 2. And then obviously with Elisa and our other health coaches as well, you can book and do that one-on-one. So we'll get that sorted out. Offer closes on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, I will talk to you much more about the self-paced online programs and how that works and what they include. So for you at the moment, the big decision that you need to make is, do I need extra support and learning and guidance? Is it complex what I've got? Or can I do it at a guided, self-guided online, remembering you still have your practitioner consult and remembering you still have access to health coaches and access to us? So, which one's going to be better suited for you? There is a price difference for working one-on-one with us and then doing it self-paced online. So for those with budgetary constraints, or you just don't need the extra complex care, then the self-paced might suit you. But I'm going to talk all about that on Wednesday. We will have some offers for the self-paced online programs. So we'll have some gift voucher offers like we've got for the one-on-one. So there will be some extra offers for that. So stay tuned. But I just really want to make sure that we get everyone sorted out with the one-on-one, because as you can imagine, behind the scenes, we've got the whole team working and supporting to get everyone where they need to go, get the care they need, the testing they need, and get everyone where they need to go in their own spots. So hopefully, because there was a lot of questions about closing on Tuesday and the difference. So I hope that helps. So just to reiterate, all you need to kind of learn is do you need extra expert care and support and guidance one-on-one, and you've got complex things going on? Or do you think you could do it self-paced online, but there's still the care there, but not the complex care? I hope that covers everything. Is there anything that can be claimed on health insurance to help out with the cost? Yes, so you can, let me double check, but because some things have changed in the last couple of months with health insurance. They always change it. But the last I checked, you could cover your naturopathic consult. So that part of the program, you could cover your naturopathic consult. Elisa may have jumped off to go and cook her kids some dinner, but she may be able to update, or Gabby may be on, or Jade may be on to answer those questions, but we will find that out for you. But last time I checked, yes, you could cover your naturopathic consults, which is part of the program, on your health insurance. Okay. So yes, the 3 for 2 promo for the cultures is still going to last for the whole time that this whole workshop is open. So if you haven't got that yet, then there is still more time to do the 3 for 2 option. Jen, that's a great question, and I'm going to answer that one. What is the average time it takes to recover on program? So we're really honest about that. And that's why, our program is 6 months to start with for the more complex conditions, because it takes time to recover. So 6 months to really get that groundwork, that foundational work done of what do I need to do to recover. And then for like if you've got an autoimmune condition, if it's complex, you can feel awesome after, 3 to 4 months, but to truly recover, firing on all cylinders, getting back to exactly what you want in life. For some people, it can take up to 2 years. Now, that's not 2 years of doing cleanses and hard work and, staying in ketosis and keeping everything really, kind of really on target, but it can take up to 2 years. For some people that are not as complex, it can be as simple as jumping into ketosis, maybe doing a parasite cleanse, getting some nutrients up, learning some new lifestyle and food choices, and then they're ready to go. So it's different for everybody, but if you're complex and you've been sick for a while, then the naturopathic sort of way of life or code is for every year that you have been sick, then allocate a month of that to healing. So for me, I was sick for a very, very long time. So it took a long time to recover. So we're every year. So some people, we come and they work with us and they've been sick for 20 years. And so we allocate sort of 24 months of healing for that. I should also mention that there's been some questions around our Kickstarter program. So I wanted to, George has just messaged me, you can't cover your naturopathic consults anymore. I'm sorry, to say that. So you can't cover your naturopathic consults anymore. I thought it had changed, and yes, it has. So the other question is, lots of people are asking, can I have food lists? I want to learn more about ketosis. How can I, just learn? I don't have many complex issues. I just want to learn with some support to get into ketosis. And that is our Kickstarter program. And I'll be talking about that next Wednesday as well. And that's just giving you the tools about learning about ketosis rather than delving into big gut space and, big healing and so forth. So once again, we're there to support you around learning about, your electrolytes and how to test it and what foods to eat and how to bulk cook and all of that kind of thing. But we do have that foundational work there for you if you just want to learn that and see how you go. Alrighty. So there's still a few more questions to answer and I will get to them. Don't worry. I don't want to leave anyone hanging with their questions. So I will get to them, or Gabby or Elisa will get to them. So please watch out for extra videos popping up from either myself, Gabby, or from Elisa answering your questions. So we'll still get there. So don't worry about that. Don't forget the close off on Tuesday for the one-on-one offer. For me, it's if you work with me, it's $1,000 gift voucher, which is really amazing. I mean, that covers testing and supplements and so forth. So it's a really awesome offer. And then obviously next Wednesday, I'm going to delve into the self-paced online programs because that may suit what you're looking for and what you need at the moment. Also look out for a live about the stool testing and what kind of testing you need. And thank you for those who said that they wanted to have a hormone workshop. And I'll put that in the list of all the things, all the education we need to cover off for everyone. And yes, make sure you get all of your 3 for 2 specials, grab your Guttalicious books, grab all that stuff while you can, because it's very important to have all the tools so you can get started. All right, everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful Sunday evening, and we'll still be touching base for a few more days and supporting you with so much learning. All righty, have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you.